Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally happening. After literally 10 years of rumors, patents, and maybe next year promises, we finally have concrete specs for the iPhone Fold. But, and this is a massive but, if you are expecting a simple foldable phone, you are in for a shock. We're talking about liquid metal hinges, screens that are smaller than you think, and a price tag that might actually make you cry. So, is Apple about to change the game? Or is this going to be their most expensive mistake ever? Let's dive into the leaks, the specs, and the secret technology that makes this phone possible. First, let's look at the source. This isn't just some random guy on Twitter. This comes from Jeff Pu, a major analyst at GF Securities. He dropped a massive report for investors and, honestly, it's kind of a mixed bag. The headline is that the iPhone Fold is targeting a release in September 2026, launching right alongside the iPhone 18 Pro series. That means we don't have to wait until 2027 or 2028. It is literally around the corner. But here is where things get weird. The screen sizes that we all expected a big, standard smartphone on the outside, right? Like the Pixel Fold or the Galaxy Fold. Well, Jeff Pu says the outside screen is going to be 5.3 inches. Let that sink in for a second. 5.3 inches. For context, the old iPhone mini was 5.4 inches. This outside screen is going to be tiny. It sounds like Apple wants this thing to be super pocketable when it's closed. So, if you have giant hands like me, you might be typing with your fingernails on that front screen. But when you open it up, you get a massive 7.8-inch main display. That is basically an iPad mini that you can fold in half and put in your pocket. Now, you might be asking, wait, won't it break? Foldables are famous for breaking, right? Well, this is where Apple is flexing its engineering muscles. The report says the hinge is going to be made of liquid metal. No, I don't mean the T-1000 from Terminator. Liquid metal is a special alloy that Apple has held the exclusive license for since 2010. They have been sitting on this tech for 15 years, just waiting for the right moment. This metal is amorphous, which is a fancy way of saying it doesn't have a normal crystal structure. It is insanely strong. It bounces back when you bend it, and it doesn't fatigue like normal steel. Basically, this hinge might be the first one that truly feels indestructible. Combine that with a titanium body, and we are looking at a phone that is lighter, stronger, and thinner than anything Samsung has right now. We are hearing it's only 9 mm thick when folded. That is almost as thin as a regular phone, but we have to talk about the competition. Because Samsung isn't just sitting around waiting for Apple to show up. By the time the iPhone Fold drops, Samsung will be on the Galaxy Z Fold 8. That is 8 generations of practice. They have worked out the bugs, they have fixed the screens, and their cameras are beasts. Rumors say the Galaxy Z Fold 8 will have a 200-megapixel main camera. Meanwhile, the iPhone Fold? It's sticking with two 48-megapixel sensors. Now, we know megapixels aren't everything. Apple's processing is magic. But if you are paying top dollar, do you want specs that look worse on paper? And speaking of worse, let's talk about that crease. You know, the ugly ditch in the middle of every folding screen? This is where Apple might actually beat Samsung at their own game. The report says Apple is using a new display technology called COE, or color filter on encapsulation. Okay, stay with me. I promise this is cool. Normal OLED screens have a thick plastic layer on top called a polarizer to stop reflections. It's like wearing sunglasses. But it makes the screen thicker and darker. This new COE tech prints the color filters directly on the screen protection layer. No extra plastic.
No sunglasses.
The result? The screen is physically thinner, which means it folds easier. And because there is no dark layer blocking the light, it is way brighter and uses less battery. This might be how Apple finally makes a foldable with zero crease, but here is a detail that actually shocked me. The security. For years, Face ID has been the gold standard. You look at your phone, it unlocks. Simple. But this report says the iPhone Fold won't have Face ID. Or at least not the Face ID we know. It says it will use Touch ID. Yes, the fingerprint sensor is coming back.
Why?
Because the screen bezels are so thin and the device is so slim, there might not be room for the Face ID sensors on the inside screen. Personally, I kind of miss Touch ID. Being able to unlock your phone while it's still in your pocket was a superpower. But for a Pro device in 2026, it feels a little retro, doesn't it? Okay, take a deep breath. We need to talk about the price. If you thought the iPhone Pro Max was expensive, you better sit down. Analysts are predicting the iPhone Fold will cost between $2,000 and $2,400. $2,000.
$400.
For that price, you could buy a MacBook Pro and an iPad. You could buy a used car. Apple is betting that people will pay extra for this status of having the first folding iPhone. But is it worth it? The iPhone Air is reportedly failing because it was too expensive for what it offered. Could the iPhone Fold suffer the same fate? Or is the liquid metal and the crease-free screen enough to make us open our wallets? So, here is the timeline. This September, we are expecting the iPhone 18 Pro, the Pro Max, and this new iPhone Fold. It's going to be a crowded stage. The iPhone 18 Pro will have the new A20 chip, which is built on 2nm tech. That means it's faster and more efficient. And, thankfully, the iPhone Fold gets that same chip. So even if the cameras aren't 200 megapixels, the brain of the phone will be the fastest on the planet. And don't forget the modem. It's using Apple's own C2 chip for 5G. This should theoretically give you better signal and use less battery than the Qualcomm chips we have used for years. So, here is the verdict. The iPhone Fold is real. It's made of space-age liquid metal. It has a super bright, thin screen. But it has a tiny front display, old-school Touch ID, and a price tag that hurts my soul. It feels like Apple is taking a massive gamble. They are entering the foldable war late with a device that is smaller and more expensive than the competition. But it's Apple. They didn't invent the MP3 player, they just perfected it. They didn't invent the smartphone, they perfected it. Can they perfect the foldable? I want to know what you think. Would you pay $2,400 for an iPhone that folds? Or would you rather stick with a normal Pro Max and save $1,000? And what about that tiny 5.3-inch front screen? Is that a deal breaker? Or do you miss small phones? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them, and I really want to see if I'm the only one worried about that price. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button so I know to keep covering these leaks. And if you are new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Thanks for watching. Thanks for geeking out.